Former school teacher, so I like rules. I'm looking for who follows my rules here. No, I'm serious. I want one word. What single unique quality do you possess that qualifies you to be mayor? Then, I want one single quality that one of your competitors that has that disqualifies them from being mayor. So 3 to 4 words at most.
None of them would do that.
Why do I have the mic when these questions come? Mic here. Two. Visionary determination. What was the second part?
I want one other competitor and what disqualifies them.
Oh, I don't want to do that. Honestly. I mean, I just don't want to. I don't think
I don't want to answer the second question either because I don't think that it's a proper way of dealing with this situation. But I will say my one word is listener.
My one word is honesty.
My one word would be ethics. And well, you wanted to follow this follow-up second question. We are all flawed human beings up here. We all have traits which, quote unquote, could disqualify us. So I don't think it's fair to point out one particular person. We're all flawed. We hope that you can overlook our flaws and focus on what our good traits are.
My one word would be open, and I don't think it's a disqualification, but I will be a cheerleader for this city every day I wake up, all over the city, all over the nation.
Sane.
Mine would be leadership.
My name is Bishop Michelle B. Patty. Y'all sound like Oprah. Everyone in East Tampa is going to get a new car. I would like you all to be very specific, since you're walking into a budget that is in the red, what your plan is, who's going to pay for it, and how it's going to get done. Let's talk specifics, please.
All right. Thank you, Michelle Patty. And I swear she didn't ask that. There are a lot of promises about East Tampa, but the reality, and in this age of instant gratification, everybody's making promises about what they're going to do in East Tampa. It's going to happen, and I've worked in East Tampa. I've been there all of these years. I have been there as a part of the community. And what has to happen in East Tampa, we have to have transportation solutions so that people can get to jobs. We need good paying jobs, which I'll be providing workforce development. We need affordable housing so that people can afford to buy homes that will sustain the retail that will be drawn to the community. We have tried and tried with retail in East Tampa that wasn't sustainable. So we have to provide that foundation of good jobs, solid, reliable transportation, affordable homes that will bring the retail and the economic sustainability into East Tampa, and I'll be the one to do that.
So I have been talking about transportation and affordable housing throughout this campaign, but just today I released a very specific plan related to affordable, attainable, and accessible housing. And that means making city-owned properties that we do a very poor job of maintaining right now available to private citizens for housing investments like homes built from shipping containers, which are half the cost of traditional construction, totally hurricane-proof, beautiful product. Tiny homes, which are the idea of putting 4 800 square foot like houses on one property around a courtyard, doing that within the city's land development code through the PD process. making sure that when a builder comes in, a developer, and asks for bonus density, that we make affordable housing the criteria that will allow the bonus density to be awarded. If somebody wants to develop more than's allowed under the zoning, they should put affordable housing in along with it.
The first thing, as I stated I will do, I am going to have a vice mayor, deputy mayor, assistant to the mayor, whatever you'd like to call it. It's going to be an African-American person. I am going to make certain, as Topher stated, when you hear the numbers of what the city is spending and the minority contracts that go to that spending, it's unconscionable. That is going to change. It is going to expand. And also, if we do projects, that not only will the minority contractors get that business, but they're going to be required to hire persons that work on those projects that they should be hiring. In other words, help the minority persons work on those very same contracts. I also will do things like follow up on affordable housing. Why is it that the people, the very people who those houses are supposed to help can't even qualify? It's like people at the city don't even care about them. So these are some of the things I will absolutely work on every day. I'll also get connected with the community. I'm not going to sit behind a desk. I will get into the East Tampa areas. I'll be that cheerleader for East Tampa.
Before we start the timer, because I need some clarification, Ms. Patty, because I don't think anybody's answered your question, but maybe I didn't understand the question. Was your question about East Tampa, or was your question about how are we going to pay for everything inside the budget? I thought you had asked a budgetary question. Correct. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so there's two ways that you pay for things. You either cut costs or you increase your revenue. I've already talked about how we're going to cut costs 3 specific ways, so in my less than 60 seconds, let me try to talk about how we make more money. The city makes more money when you make more money. The city makes more money when you spend more money. So we need to be focusing on ways in which you can save money to spend it on things that you want, or actually make sure that your cost of living increase, or your salaries increase higher than the cost of living. So you cannot have a conversation with transit without a conversation about transit-oriented development. We cannot just spend our money in the transit area without building around it to make it accessible and affordable for individuals as well. With regard to helping out East Tampa, I promise you, when we go from 2% to 50%, we don't have to do anything else. At that point in time, the minority-owned businesses that are occupying East and West Tampa, they will start to flourish. 2-point-some-odd billion over 4 years is going to be in there. It's an amazing amount of money. We'll take care of you. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you for your question, but you have a new car. It's a question of proper allocation of the funds. You talk about paying for something in East Tampa. We put $35 million downtown in a park. We could have put some of that in East Tampa. We could have put some in West Tampa. We have to spread out the wealth. So that's where the money's come. The money is here. We have to allocate it properly. I do want to make a comment about what else I would do in East Tampa. I have been endorsed by over 100 labor unions, and they represent the working families in our community. I would get them to come into to East Tampa and promote their programs of work where they train people and where people can make big money.
Thank you.
Bishop Patty, I want to tell you, there's only one person that can buy cars for everyone in East Tampa, and it's not me. Some of the problems that we have that are inherent in the way a city is built is when we have land that the city owns, that we could use that for a land bank. We could then take away the cost of land for people to actually live. Have a developer come in, build the house. Now the land cost, let's say it's $100,000, that $100,000 is gone. We will still own the land, but the building itself will be built and owned by the people that live there. They build equity, and if they want to move to another house, they can, but if they want to stay there, they can too. It reduces the cost of property, and that's something that we need to do. It's not that hard to do, and working with developers and with other organizations out there, you can do it. That includes foundations that we have here in this city. And I hope that when I become your mayor, we will make sure we look at that and put that into place. Thank you.
Number one, you don't do things like domain homes. You don't build homes that don't fit the community that no one can afford. You don't give the property to domain homes, and you don't take a $10,000 contribution from domain homes. Right? Number one. Number two, you don't take all the money in downtown for the next 30 years and keep it in downtown. You're going to say, we're going to leave it and give it and invest it in the rest of the community. Then we're going to build a rail system that should have been built in 1995. We ran a train in East Tampa in 1997. Where are the politicians that did something about that? We should be outraged about the fact that we have not moved forward. So we're going to build a great transit system, Michelle. We're going to have it do what Jimmy Hargett and I proposed in 1991, and we're going to have it up and running in 3 years because we know how to do it. And we're going to build affordable housing around it, and we're going to create a new downtown East Tampa. And the reason we know how to do it is I do know how to do it because that's a record you can count on. Thank you.
Yvonne, I have a follow-up question.
Jenny, calm down.
That was a very important question. I want to come back big picture because a running theme that we're hearing here is that East Tampa, West Tampa are underserved. At the same time, the city of Tampa is carrying a significant amount of debt. On top of that, we've heard grousing about the budget cuts. We've also heard complaints about decrepit infrastructure that needs significant investments, and very little beyond, for most of you, the fact that there may be some fluff in the budget that can be cut. So money is no gift from heaven. Tell me specifically, to pay for this additional services the city needs, which taxes or fees would you be willing to raise, or assessments, in an area that's already paying the highest sales tax in the state? Thank you.
The war on the low-income middle class isn't just in Washington. Since 2015, taxes, fees for a city family has gone up $700 a year. $700. I can quantify that. The answer is we're not going to increase taxes or fees on average citizens. They're regressive. $700 for someone making $30,000 a year is 2.5% of their gross income. We're going to make development finally pay its fair shares. You think the county commission's bad on impact fees? The city's lower than the county commission. Development's getting a free ride. We didn't require developers to fix the stormwater issue. We taxed the citizens. We've got to be tired with this. We need to rebalance our resources to make those who can afford to pay and those who can't don't.
Thank you.
You know, I want to tell you, you just probably saw in the newspaper that Amazon's HQ2 is leaving New York City. Now I want to point out they're not leaving New York City because it's too high taxes there. They're leaving for a lot of other issues. We do have the highest tax rate now here in the state of Florida, but we need to spend it properly. One of the things that, you know, you're asking about specifics, we're going to have offered transportation dollars coming in. That's going to help us redo our roads. It's going to help us with sidewalks. It's going to help us with a lot of infrastructure needs. We had passed an assessment in 2003 that was never funded for our stormwater. Myself and Harry Cohen and this mayor, we went ahead and passed that and got it done because we needed to invest in the infrastructure. This is not about South Tampa or West Tampa or East Tampa. Those type of things that we did together is really about the entire city. Having higher taxes does not throw people away from the city. What it does is the way you spend your money is what's important.
I'm not a politician, nor am I in city government. And so I mentioned earlier that I will undertake an audit to find out where the money's coming in from, where it's going out. And I can tell you there's fluff in everybody's budget all the time. To just sit here and say there's no fluff, that's a lot of baloney. There's fluff. And I need to identify those things, and that's what this budget is going, this audit is going to do. And I'll have it transparent, because I'm all about transparency. And some of our folks could be a little more talkative about transparency. But we will find out. I'll put it on the internet so the citizens can see just what our budget is and where this money's going.
The budget's already on the internet. Goes through all the tubes. All right. Your question was about specifics, and we haven't heard much. So here's how you, first off, we don't need to raise taxes. I'm sure you guys feel like you've had the tax burden's big enough for you already. I haven't met people to get upset paying taxes. I meet people to get upset paying taxes and not seeing anything for it. And here's why you're not seeing anything for it. And this is how you fix it. The reason why we're spending all of the money and you're not seeing any results is because we're paying overinflated prices for contracts given to people like special interest groups that fund the politicians' campaigns. And they're always trying to keep them happy for their next campaign, So they're not doing what's good for you, they're doing what's good for their campaigns. There are only two people up here that can tell you they're not beholden to special interest groups. It's me and David Stratz. And I'm more than happy to go toe-to-toe with him and tell you why I'm a better mayor than he is. But that's a different conversation. But right now, if you want people who don't want to spend your money wastefully, then get rid of the politicians.
Thank you.
That's the problem.
It's virtually impossible to talk about specifics, and I'll tell you why. We just heard about the tax, the transportation tax. Anybody remember there's a lawsuit? We might not even have that money. Then what would you do? Where do we get it? Where does it come from? We're not going to do anything, not one thing you've heard about from any candidate, unless we can get connected and communicate. It's not ours. It's not a plan that has a person's name on it. We can't just do something in the city of Tampa alone. It won't work. That's not how humans get along with each other or governments. We have to have the cooperation, the communication with not only the county, but with the state. We don't own a bus in the city of Tampa. Hart owns the buses. We don't own a streetcar. We don't own CSX. We don't have right-of-ways. We have to attain all that. Nothing will get done. We don't own the telephone poles. We don't own the gas lines. Bottom line is, if you don't have a mayor that can get everybody to the table, all the parties that have to be there, come to a consensus, communicate, and maybe even just, roll over sometimes and get things done, you will never get any of the stuff done. None of it.
Well, there's no question from my point of view, and I think from the community's point of view, that infrastructure is our most significant challenge. On transportation, the all for transportation 1 cent tax is going to mean $9 billion over 30 years. It's going to mean $30 million a year to the city to do work that we've been paying $6 million a year to do going back a long, long time. So on transportation, we are going to have the money. The question is who's going to be in charge of spending it, and are they going to make rational, reasonable decisions based on principles like safety being the #1 priority of a community, where people can't walk and bicycle without taking their life in their hands. Number 2, we have to replace the entire fresh water delivery system. All of these water main breaks that you see when it gets cold are the result of the fact that our pipes are old and they are decaying. We need to do this deal that the mayor has been pushing for putting water into the aquifer, because it will ultimately lower our water bills and we can reinvest that money in building out the system.
I think that we do a very good job of providing services. And, a lot of times people talk, it all comes to the transparency. If the citizens believe and trust that the government is spending their tax dollars wisely, then there isn't the opposition for the services that are rendered and provided. And there are a number of issues that are going to play into this. First and foremost is what the state did, no new taxes without a supermajority, is going to push a lot of those spending decisions down to the cities and the counties. And then also the transportation. That was communicated very clearly, and it was voted in overwhelmingly. Now it's up to us to ensure that it's spent appropriately. And one of the ways that I will do that is to have a plan, a solid plan. When you are repaving a road, take care of the infrastructure that is underneath so you don't have to dig up and repave that road 6 or 7 times. We can look at responsible spending of the taxpayers' dollars.